you've been watching the accused Bryan Kohberger case, then you would have heard that his solicitors are trying to say, his defense team, that the lack of evidence must mean there's exculpatory evidence, meaning that he couldn't possibly be guilty because the lack of evidence usually tends to exonerate a defendant from being guilty. If you want to catch up on this case, I've done a few videos on them, and in the description area below you'll find a bit more information. So, but broadly speaking, Bryan C Kolhburger has been accused of stabbing 4 University Idaho students to death, and as a result his trial is coming up. So I found this case in the UK, and we'll see how they compare, because I think you'll be very surprised. So I came across this case in Norfolk, England. It happened in 2009, and this chap had been badly stabbed to death, 16 stab wounds in his own house. And when he was found, the police said there was a lack of evidence and they couldn't explain it. I do want to play for you a small clip from the lead detective in the UK, where he is discussing how they are very confused as to the lack of evidence. But before I do that, let's listen to a small clip from News Nation describe the current issues from the filings that were just made.
I think the lack of evidence matters as much as the presence of evidence matters. And when we're talking about exculpatory, it's not just the presence, it's also the absence. Yep. There is not a single bit of biological matter anywhere that, you know, in his car or anything. And people are saying he cleaned up, but there's no evidence of a cleanup.
But you are a defense attorney. That's your job to find those parts of this. I mean, if you read the probable cause.
I'm not looking for biological matter.
No, but there's a lot there, though. I mean, with the cell phone data, the cell phone being turned off.
I'm talking about forensic. I'm talking about biological matter from 4 slain.
But maybe he just knew how to clean up really well.
But see, in the state's papers, the state says there is no explanation for this lack of evidence, and cleanup is an explanation. So that's why I'm saying, if there was a cleanup, we would have learned something about there was a cleanup. He had like bleach, or he had whatever. And so that's the problem. It's like 8 hours later they show up. This is a party house. We don't know who was there. And the house, all they get is a latent footprint. What is he, hopping, or he's one-legged? I mean, one latent footprint and the sheath. So there's a real void here of forensic evidence.
The sheath is big, though.
The sheath is touch DNA, which is problematic in the world of DNA.
It's going to be interesting.
Now let's listen to what the lead detective had to say.
What was really odd was there was no forensic evidence or no blood, nothing else between Stephen and the front door, just the footmark outside the door. Later in the inquiry, we discussed it as a team, and I actually put a little prize up for anyone who could come up with a theory as to how someone could be involved in that and only leave this blood mark outside the front door and not leave anything in between.
So the officers did come up with a reason why there was a lack of evidence. And so let's play that clip just now.
Turned out that Alex Stewart, at the time of Stephen Murphy's murder, was a student doing a criminology degree and was completely forensically aware. Hence, most likely, why there was no forensic evidence at the scene, because he knew what could be recovered and how to prevent it from being recovered.
Do you think it's a bit of coincidence that the UK police thought that it was fathomable that because the one suspect had a criminology degree, that he would know how to prevent evidence from being discovered? Interesting, don't you think? So if you want to watch the full clip of the British case, I've left it in the links below. And You'll find out how they caught these guys, because it's very similar to this case. I think you'll find it really interesting, but they did get a conviction. Don't be surprised, don't be fooled just because there's no direct evidence. Circumstantial evidence can get a conviction just as easily, especially when all the evidence starts to stack up. So please watch the UK case and let me know your thoughts. Well, I hope you found today's video interesting, and information is power. Why not subscribe and watch more of our videos? If you need legal help, contact Legal Minded Friends.